Well, good evening, everybody. It's late into the night. Richie's still downstairs. She's actually doing some ironing, believe it or not, because she's catching up on it. And when she does her ironing, she cracks on and does it. She doesn't just do a couple of things and gives up. She gets into a um, marathon where she goes for hours. She goes from one movie to another movie that she's watching while she's doing the ironing as well. So it goes on. And sometimes she brings me a cup of coffee at sort of 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. I, on the other hand, do similar things. I have phone call after phone call in the evening, usually, with other parts of the world. It has to take place in the evening because that's when these other countries I'm talking to are awake, like Fiji, across the Far East, and even in parts of North America. I wanted to have a quick chat about Boris Johnson again tonight, just to give a bit of a view for my overseas visitors, probably much to Paul's advice, but Boris has been on a recent trip to Germany and to France to talk to the German Chancellor and the French President, and has had, in my opinion, very favourable results, particularly with the German Chancellor. Not quite so much with Macron, but on saying that, he handled himself very well, in my opinion. And those of you that saw the newsreels of the press conferences on both those state visits, you'll see exactly what I mean in terms of how he got his points across. For those of you that aren't really too familiar with Boris Johnson, I weren't aware of him before his position as Prime Minister. He's always been seen as a bit of a joker, a spoilt brat, some people like to describe him, a bit of a buffoon. These are all very misleading comments, because Boris is probably one of the best equipped and the best in terms of his understanding of Europe. As a journalist, he did a lot of reporting on Europe in his early days as a journalist. So he really does understand the European positioning of not just the EU, but of the countries in the EU and their position now. He's very clear on what they're looking for, but at the same time he's being very clear on what's got to happen for Britain, what's got to happen for the UK. He's standing out now in terms of the media, who they still try and ridicule him, including the BBC, for whatever reason. But he clearly has a good understanding and knows what he's talking about. And I think he clearly wants a deal as well. I don't see Boris as being someone who's right at the right hand side of our political system. He's central in terms of his conservative focus. His problem is going to be how he brings along the very right wing of the party. Should he get a deal and get this thing to go through? Clearly he would like a deal, but he's not frightened to go into a situation where we leave without a deal. And he's really, so the energy in preparing for that is definitely there. Now, let's look at that worst case scenario. If we don't have a deal, there are going to be problems initially with certain communication. There's no doubt about that. Things are going to have to be done differently, as I said before, in the form filling and all this type of thing. But there are people and processes in place to get us through that. And, you know, I'm aware of people being trained on new systems in customs and excise now. There's courses running now as we talk, through the night. Yes, through the night. Engaging with people to take on new roles in HMRC. There's tremendous preparation going into how we're going to handle logistics, and you know, it's not a question of looking at what happened in the past. It's a question of actually planning the what ifs of what can happen in the future. So there's another area. In terms of Ireland and all its things that are going on, there is also lots of things. And there's Mikey coming in. Hello, Mikey. Come in. You can come in. Come in. No, he's not coming in. There's also lots of things happening with the backstop and how the backstop. Sorry, there's things flying around in the room now. I've got both the windows open because it's quite warm. And the backstop is probably the most delicate area in terms of our negotiation, because it's not a question of what Britain will do, because Britain has no intention of putting any borders up to between Northern Ireland and the south. It's what the EU want to do to protect their rights and their product movement and everything else. So I can see both sides, but I think there's going to be some compromise with that in the next week or two. I could see that happening now. The key in this whole process for me now is the country coming together. I mean, that's very important, that the country does come together. I think Boris is well equipped to achieve this. He's still got he's got lots of discussion and he's got points to prove, of course, with people in general. But I think he has the capabilities of doing all of that. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that little bit of information, and I'll talk to you soon again. Have a good evening, and try and get some sleep if you can. Okay, 99. Bye-bye.